Spartacus was history's ultimate freedom fighter and gladiator king. He led the most massive slave rebellion the Roman Republic ever faced. He broke out of a brutal gladiator school using only kitchen knives. He rappelled down the sheer cliffs of Mount Vesuvius using vines to ambush an army. He transformed a ragtag group of runaway slaves into an unstoppable military machine. He repeatedly crushed heavily armed, elite Roman legions in open combat. He caused massive panic throughout the most powerful empire in the ancient world. He died swinging his bloody sword in a desperate charge to kill a Roman general. His legendary name became an eternal symbol for the oppressed across human history. This is the breathtaking chronicle of the gladiator who made Rome tremble. The legendary warrior was originally born in the rugged, mountainous regions of ancient Thrace. He initially served as an auxiliary soldier in the massive Roman army to secure his homeland. He eventually rebelled against his corrupt commanders and deserted the Roman military entirely. Roman legionnaires hunted him down, captured him, and stripped him of his fundamental human rights. He was sold into absolute slavery and transported to the wealthy Italian city of Capua. A wealthy Roman lanista named Lentulus Batiatus purchased him for his famous gladiator school. Spartacus was forced to endure brutal, relentless combat training in the dusty arenas of Capua. He fought for the bloody entertainment of the very Romans who had stolen his freedom. He refused to accept his terrible fate and quietly began whispering of absolute rebellion. If you love these gripping tales of absolute historical ambition, please like this video right now. In 73 BCE, Spartacus and a small group of gladiators launched a desperate, violent escape plan. 78 gladiators broke out of their heavily guarded barracks, armed only with kitchen knives and meat cleavers. They fought their way through the city streets and successfully hijacked several wagons full of gladiator armor. The newly freed warriors elected Spartacus and two fierce Gauls named Crixus and Enemaus as their supreme leaders. They fled across the Italian countryside and set up a fortified camp on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. Thousands of runaway slaves, poor herdsmen, and desperate farmers flocked to the mountain to join the uprising. The arrogant Roman Senate sent a hastily assembled militia of 3,000 men under Claudius Glaber to crush them. Glaber cowardly blocked the only known path down the mountain, intending to starve the gladiators to death. Spartacus possessed a brilliant tactical mind and refused to wait for his men to slowly die of hunger. He ordered his men to secretly weave long, thick ropes from the wild vines growing on the volcano's crater. Under the cover of total darkness, the rebel army silently rappelled down the sheer, unguarded cliffs of Vesuvius. They completely outflanked the sleeping Roman militia and annihilated their camp in a devastating surprise attack. The shocking victory provided the rebel army with a massive supply of high-quality Roman weapons and armor. Word of his incredible tactical genius spread like wildfire across the vast agricultural estates of Italy. His army rapidly swelled to over 70,000 highly motivated, completely fearless runaway slaves. He spent the winter forging weapons, training peasants in gladiatorial combat, and organizing his massive forces. The Roman Senate finally realized they were fighting a massive war rather than a simple localized riot. Rome deployed two massive consular armies to trap and destroy the slave rebellion once and for all. Spartacus completely shattered both Roman armies in open combat through pure strategic brilliance. Make sure to subscribe to Stickman Chronicles because we drop epic history content every single day. The gladiator army marched relentlessly north toward the Alps, intending to leave Italy and return to their homelands. He successfully defeated the governor of Cisalpine Gaul and completely cleared the path to absolute freedom. For unknown historical reasons, the massive rebel army suddenly turned around and marched back south toward Rome. Internal divisions began to fracture the army as his co-commander Crixus split off with thousands of followers. Crixus and his men were tragically surrounded and slaughtered by Roman legions near Mount Garganus. Spartacus held massive, bloody funeral games for his fallen friend, forcing 300 Roman prisoners to fight to the death. He brilliantly reversed the cruel Roman tradition, making his former masters bleed for the entertainment of slaves. The terrified Roman Senate granted absolute, dictatorial military power to the wealthiest man in Rome, Marcus Licinius Crassus. Crassus funded an army of 50,000 elite Roman legionnaires using his own massive personal fortune. When several of his Roman cohorts fled from battle, Crassus ordered the brutal practice of decimation to instill total fear. 1 in 10 of his own fleeing soldiers was beaten to death by their comrades to restore absolute military discipline. Spartacus retreated to the southern toe of Italy, hoping to hire Cilician pirates to ferry his men to Sicily. He paid the pirates a massive fortune in stolen Roman gold, but they treacherously abandoned him on the beaches. Crassus rapidly constructed a massive trench and a towering wooden wall across the narrow peninsula to trap the slaves. The rebel army found themselves completely surrounded by the sea, freezing winter weather, and heavily armed Romans. Spartacus ordered his men to secretly fill a section of the trench with dead bodies and tree branches during a blizzard. The desperate gladiators burst through the Roman defensive wall and escaped into the mountains of Lucania. However, a massive new Roman army under the famous General Pompey was rapidly marching south to intercept them. Spartacus realized his exhausted army was completely trapped between the approaching legions of Crassus and Pompey. He addressed his brave warriors one final time, declaring they would win in glorious combat or die as free men. Before the final battle, he famously drew his sword and violently stabbed his own beloved warhorse to death. He loudly proclaimed that if he won the day, he would have plenty of fine Roman horses to ride. He declared that if he lost the battle, he would never need to ride a horse again. The ultimate clash occurred at the Battle of the Silarus River in 71 BCE against the massive legions of Crassus. The desperate rebel army charged the Roman lines with a terrifying, absolute fury born of pure survival. Spartacus aggressively carved a bloody path directly through the Roman elite guards to reach Crassus himself. He single-handedly killed 2 Roman centurions who desperately tried to block his unstoppable advance. He was suddenly struck by a spear in the thigh, dropping him violently to one knee in the blood-soaked mud. Even while severely wounded on the ground, he continued swinging his heavy shield and slashing with his sword. He fought like a cornered lion until he was completely overwhelmed and hacked to pieces by Roman legionnaires. His actual physical body was mutilated so badly in the chaotic slaughter that it was never officially recovered. The Roman legions ruthlessly massacred tens of thousands of trapped slaves on the battlefield that day. Pompey's arriving forces intercepted and slaughtered thousands of fleeing survivors, unfairly stealing the final glory from Crassus. Crassus captured exactly 6,000 living rebel prisoners from the shattered remnants of the Gladiator army. To send a terrifying, unforgettable message to the entire ancient world, Crassus ordered a mass execution. Every single one of the 6,000 captured slaves was brutally crucified along the famous Appian Way. The horrifying line of wooden crosses stretched for over 120 miles from Capua directly to the gates of Rome. The rotting bodies were deliberately left hanging on the crosses for years as a grim warning against future rebellions. The massive, brutal display of Roman power permanently ended the era of large-scale slave revolts in Italy. He famously created specialized cavalry units by teaching runaway farmers how to ride captured Roman horses. He constantly raided Roman supply lines to ensure his massive, moving city of freed slaves never ran completely out of food. He strictly banned the possession of gold and silver in his camp, demanding his men only trade for iron and brass. He used this massive stockpile of iron to manufacture tens of thousands of crude but deadly swords and spears. He cleverly set up fake camps with burning fires and dead bodies, strapped to wooden posts to completely fool Roman scouts. When a Roman general named Verinius tried to encircle his camp, Spartacus silently slipped his entire army through the lines at night. He later ambushed Verinius's divided forces, capturing the Roman general's own personal horse and imperial fasces. He displayed these stolen Roman symbols of absolute power to mock the arrogance of the wealthy patrician class. He constantly faced massive language barriers because his army consisted of Gauls, Thracians, Germans, and Greeks. He successfully overcame these divisions through absolute personal charisma and leading every single charge from the front. The Roman Senate was so deeply humiliated by losing to a slave that they initially refused to record his military victories. His ultimate goal was never to conquer the city of Rome, but simply to guide his people back to their ancestral homes. When his army foolishly refused to cross the Alps into freedom, he stayed with them out of absolute loyalty. He knew that returning south into the heart of Roman Italy was a guaranteed death sentence for his rebellion. He chose to die alongside his brothers in arms rather than abandon them to the ruthless Roman war machine. The master tactician left behind an eternal legacy of unmatched physical bravery and supreme moral authority. He successfully balanced the complex logistics of ancient warfare with the desperate needs of runaway families. His life remains history's greatest example of ultimate individual defiance, maintained through absolute freedom. From his quiet youth in Thrace to his final legendary breath on the muddy banks of the Silarus, he was unmatched. He permanently redefined the boundaries of human resistance and revolutionary leadership for many generations to come. He will forever be remembered as the gladiator who broke his chains and made the world's greatest empire bleed. His legendary exploits remind us that true courage leaves a permanent mark upon the very fabric of human history. He stands as the ultimate warrior hero whose name will be spoken whenever freedom is defended against tyranny. Smash that like button if you were blown away by this ancient legendary gladiator king. Subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now to join our growing community of history lovers. We upload brand new history videos every single day, so you never miss an epic tale. Leave a comment below letting us know which historical figure we should cover in our next video. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into ancient warrior spirit. See you tomorrow for another wild story on Stickman Chronicles. Stay curious and never stop fighting for true freedom.